What's up, YouTube? How are you guys doing? And welcome back to the fourth part of our little mini series in regards to creating high quality lead lists. And today we want to take care of the enrichment part, right? If you remember, we started out with getting some quite decent amount of base data using the Apollo and Apify scraper. We then added the ICP matching automation, whether the leads we got out of the first phase do match our ICP. Then we verified the email addresses that we have using Bouncer and its API, and we did all of this using n8n, obviously, with our different kinds of automation workflows. And now we're at the fourth part, basically, where we want to get a little more additional data about certain kinds of leads, right? So we are going to use the LinkedIn About page. So everything that a potential lead might have added into his profile and what we can get out of this. This is not the information that we get out of Apollo right out of the box. And obviously this also not limited to LinkedIn, right? We are just going to take this as a placeholder just so you can see how you would proceed with this. But it's very interesting, definitely, what we can get out of this little information just by adding this one field. So how are we going to do this? This is still our infrastructure, right? And we are in phase 3 now. Basically, it's basically the fourth part, but it's the enrichment phase. And if we take a look into the flow itself, then you can see, as always, it is quite simple. And there's just one little caveat actually that we need to take care of by using a so-called loop node, and I'm going to get to this in a second. So the first part is that we want to get the data, obviously, out of our table again. Pretty self-explanatory, right? It's connected to my Google Sheets account. Then the resource will be a sheet. The operation will be to get the rows. Then I'm selecting the document and the sheet where I want to get the data out of. No filters whatsoever. I'm going to execute this step really quickly. And as you can see, I'm going to get 410 items, i.e. 410 rows out of this. After this, I'm using a filter. And if I open this up, then you can see I'm basically just using two filters. I am using a separate filter node for this and not the filter within the Google Sheets node, so that when I change the Google account or the Google Sheets account within this node, the filters will still be set and will still take precedence over what we get out of the Google Sheets node, right? So it's easier to, or a little more flexible. And the only thing that I'm looking for is the email status. And if you remember, this is this column right here, right? And we have gotten these results out of Bouncer. And I want to be sure that they are not equal to the word undeliverable, right? So this is the information that we're getting out of the sheets. And if I look for the email status right here at the bottom, then you can see that I just drag and drop it in here. And I'm okay with sending or passing on the whole list and basically accepting everything that's not undeliverable, right? You may be stricter in that regard, that you say, all right, only those leads that are deliverable are going to make it into my final list. That's totally up to you. And the second filter that I'm using is just that the enrichment status obviously is empty or is not equal to done or whatever. So I'm basically just using a status field, so that if the process for the workflow for some reason breaks during the whole execution phase, then I don't have to start from scratch, or I know where it stopped, right? And which leads also already have been enriched. So this is already it, right? So this is the filter that I'm using. After this, I have this loop node, and I am going to get into this right now. So when I open this up, then you can see that there's actually almost no option. The only thing that I'm using here is the batch size. And you can even see that n8n itself is already giving you that remark or that hint that you may not need this node, because n8n nodes automatically run once for each input item. And this is an interesting remark, because if you have worked with other automation platforms, something like Make or Zapier, some of them actually require you, if you get an output like this, where you have multiple items like 410, that you need to have some kind of an iterator or a loop module just like this, so that it's able to basically go through the whole list and then pass each and every one of those items on to the next node and have a separate execution, right? That's not necessary with n8n, within n8n, because if you have multiple items as an output, they are going to be processed one by one, just as this node suggests. However, what you can do is that you basically put all of these amount of leads, in this case, into one batch, right? So that you're basically stacking them, and then you pass all of them over one by one, or as a batch rather, and then to do whatever you want to do with them in the next node, right? The reason for this is that if I passed on the whole a bunch of nodes right into the next node, which is the aggregate node, where I'm basically getting all the information that I need into one cohesive item, or rather into one item, then this next phase and this next scraper within Apify, I'm using Apify again, might break. And I'm going to get to this in a second. So the actual enrichment part where this happens, that we are getting the LinkedIn about page, is within this API call. And this API call again uses Apify. And as you can see, I'm using a post method, then there's a URL, and I'm going to get to the so-called actor tasks in a second, because this is a separate feature within Apify, which is quite awesome. And then I have all my credentials saved down here. And then I am sending over the headers, and then I have the body, and within the body I have this format which says profile URLs, and this is where I'm throwing in the variables that I got beforehand out of the aggregate node, right? And before I get into the explanation of this one, let's take a look into the actor itself. And the one that I'm using is called the mass LinkedIn profile scraper with email. And what this does is, by just using the LinkedIn profile URL, you will get a lot of more information, right? And you will not only get the information of the about page or of the biography, but a lot more, and you can decide for yourself if you need this or if you want to use it afterwards. I only want the LinkedIn about page. That's sufficient for my case or for my personal process, but you can obviously decide this on your own. All right, so as you can see, in regards to the format that I need within the Apify call, or the API call within n8n, in regards to the format, where did I get this format from? So how do I know that I'm going to make this call the key, the profile URLs, and how this is called? The only thing that I need to do is to jump into Apify itself, and here you have a manual tab and you have a JSON tab, right? So when I input this one, I'm using my own LinkedIn profile URL as an example, and I switch to the JSON one, then you can see how it's supposed to be structured if I'm using this within an API call within the body, right? And that's already it. So I can just copy and paste this. I jump into n8n, and the only thing that I need is to basically paste the whole template within here, and then I'm going to replace the hard-coded URL, LinkedIn profile URL, obviously, with what I get out of the previous aggregation node, right? And now, the reason that I need to have this loop here is that this specific scraper is not able to process, like, I don't know, 400 or 1,000 leads on its own or in one go, in run, right? Because in my experience, this has sometimes led to the cancellation of the whole process, and then the enrichment phase was basically interrupted. So what I am doing is that I'm looping over the whole items until they reach a number like 15 or 50, whatever you prefer. In my experience, 50 is actually the maximum. And then I'm going to go on with this, which means that I'm pulling all of the information that I got out of that phase right into the Google Sheets, right? So before I get to the 400 items, I will throw in everything that I have until then into the Google Sheet. So if anything breaks in between, that's no problem, because then I already have the data that I get until then by batching that data. So 15 per 15 per 15 batches are going to be inserted right into the Google Sheets doc, right? Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention is that I am using a task. And if you are familiar with Apify by now, you will find the link in the description. Then within each of those actors, of those scrapers, you always also have the possibility to use a task rather than the actor itself. And this gives you a little more flexibility. So when I click on create task, then you can see that I could just give it a name like this, test demo, or whatever, and then it gets a unique name, and this is the name that I can then use in an API call as well. And this gives me a little flexibility, because when I go into the task that I have saved, and you will find this in your sidebar right here, then you can see that these are the specific tasks, and they are based on a specific actor, right? So for instance, for the Google search results scraper, I have different kinds of tasks, and then you can have a little more flexibility in regards to the settings and in regards to scheduling, so you're not bound to using just one actor with one setting, right? You don't have to do it like this, but it gives you a little more freedom. All right, so this is the reason why I'm using the actor task, and you can see this is my account, and then this is the name of the specific actor. All right, so I am going to run through this really quickly. And by the way, if the loop is done, so when all of those 410 items have been processed, then you can see that we have the second path right here from that loop node, and which is called done. So when we are done with all those leads, then it's going to take the second path, and I'm going to aggregate this as well. And then I'm just sending a Slack notification to myself. This is connected to my Slack account. I'm using the resource message, or the message as a resource. The operation is sent. I'm going to send a user message to myself, and this will just be a simple text message, and this is just a hard-coded message that the enrichment process is finished, right? So this is everything there is to it. So I'm not going to run the whole batch right now, but let's just take a couple of them, and I'm going to start the process right now, and I am going to show you what this output afterwards. All right, and we are done with the whole process, and as you can see, there are a lot of green check marks, and I did get the whole data from that Google Sheet, and then because of the filter that I used just for demo purposes, I'm only keeping 26 items, so that will be able to show you how the loop works, and you can see that there are 26 items that have been passed through the loop node, as you can see on this string, and then we have 2 items, and this is exactly what I said. So because there are 26 items, right, and I only need 2 runs because of this, because I'm using a batch size of 15, and these are basically gives us room for up to 30 items, right? And then the whole process will run twice until we have reached those 26 items. They have been successful, and I am going to look into the runs of my scraper, and as you can see here, I have found 15 results in the first run and 11 results, so 26. This is exactly what I wanted to have, and then these have been added to the Google Sheet, and we're going to look into that as well. And now you can see that the about page, the LinkedIn about page, does contain the information of the specific lead, and they also got an enrichment status, which is done. And by the way, I just hard coded this into the flow itself. So when I open this up, then you can see then I am using the LinkedIn about page. So I'm getting the about page out of the previous node, which is this one. And then after this, I'm giving this the enrichment status of done. And then we are good to go. All right. After this, we have the last node, and this is the aggregate to 1 item again. And after all of this is done, I'm just sending the Slack message to myself, and then we are already done with the whole process. All right, now this is already it for this phase, for the enrichment phase. And as you've seen, we do have a little more information. And as I've mentioned, this is just an example, right? So you don't have to stop there. You can get a lot more information out of these scrapers, out of this specific LinkedIn scraper. But obviously, you can use, I don't know, Google Maps scraper or whatever you can imagine, which might be fitting for your specific use case. Now, if you want to learn how you can do this, and I didn't get into every specific detail, obviously, because this would be a little too technical probably, then I, first of all, would be very grateful if you subscribe to this channel and liked and shared this video, first of all. And then also I am building Skriptt AI School, and this is where you will learn to build processes like these, right? And you will learn everything. So if you're new to n8n, if you're new to automations, but you want to really get into the gist of it and will get to a highly advanced stage, then I can promise you that this is the place for you to go, and you will get all the assets that I'm presenting here, obviously, and far beyond that. And I will start with the n8n basics so that you know how to start and where to start. We will get into building AI agents, which is a very powerful tool, and which are a very powerful thing to learn, especially right now. We will get into RAG, so how you can expand the knowledge of your agents in regards to what you should know about your specific company. We will get into scraping. We already took a look into this today. We will get into Airtable, how you can build dashboards, how you can use tables and automations within there. We will get into prompt engineering and how you can build the best prompts for your specific use cases. We will get into n8n expressions and so on and so forth. Now, this will be a paid community sooner or later, but at the time of this recording, this will be free. And if you join today, this will stay free for you forever. So don't miss out on this opportunity, and I would be happy to welcome you over here. All right, so this is it for today. We are almost done with the whole process, and we are going to jump into the last part, which is the personalization. In the last video of this little series, I would be very happy to welcome you over there. Thanks a lot for your attention, and see you next time. Bye.